What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Clear the Cash. I'm your host, Nate Liss. You can find me on Twitter at @AnOutragedJew. And of course, with me as always is Jesse Bach. You could find him on Twitter at planet_fatness. Jesse, how's it going tonight? We are freshly removed from the Bucks winning the NBA Finals. Looks like you've got a LeBron James shirt on. I happen to be wearing a Michael Jordan shirt, so two of the goatiest goats there ever were.
Ever goated,
well, but
yeah.
Is Giannis going to creep his way into GOAT territory?
It's going to take a little bit for him to even get to LeBron's level, just because LeBron is a true, I'm not getting into the GOAT conversation, but at the very least, even with his doubters, even with LeBron's haters, you can't say he's not a once-in-a-generation type of player. And even then, he still knocked it out of the park. So, all right, just putting that out
Okay,
there.
wait. Who is not saying that LeBron James isn't generational?
There are people out there. He certainly has his haters, and people, will say that I've heard other podcasts say that, oh yeah, LeBron's been on a super team every championship he's won. Other players on the championship teams had bigger impacts than him because he was on the Cleveland, right? Like
Zydrunas
Cleveland
Ilgauskas
was one of exactly
Right, that's
okay.
enough said.
Super team.
Anderson
There you
Varejao.
go.
Listen, here's the issue. My brother-in-law made one of the most perplexing statements to me. Actually, it's funny because he made a statement about Giannis, which I'm going to bring up in a minute. But he made a statement to me one time when we were debating LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Now, I am actively a massive LeBron James stan. I think that LeBron James is on Jordan's level. I think LeBron has done things to this point in his career that few players ever can and maybe ever will at his size. I think people still don't give him enough respect. A guy that plays 1 through 5 on the court a lot of times. My brother-in-law said that LeBron James succeeding was more likely because when he came out of high school, he had the support of everybody behind him. And I said, I disagree because to me, that feels like more pressure.
He easily could have folded. Like, we've seen this happen before with an Andrew Wiggins, who had all of the hype in the world coming out of high school. We saw this exact same thing. If anything, you're a younger kid. So I don't know. I feel like at that age, when you're 17, 18 years old, it's so much more in your head than if you're in your mid 20s and you kind of, you've been around the block a time or two and you kind of know how to, keep your composure a little bit, but LeBron could have, he could have gone down the route of, I don't know, like any other top 2 or top 3 pick flame out from the 90s or 80s or early 2000s, whatever. Or he could have even had an Andrew Wiggins level trajectory. Honest to God, whoever started collecting LeBron early and did it passionately and picked up anything of his at the time for pennies on the dollar of what they're worth today, they're doing very well, and it's because of the legacy that he's left since he was 18 years old.
I've got an organic bit. I think every week I'm going to bring up some fraudulent statement that my brother-in-law made to me because every week we have a sports debate, and every week I disagree with him with every fiber of my being. And you look at LeBron, he got better like year over year from his first year in the league. Very clearly, he had to work for it. It's like people say, oh, you take steroids and you just hit the ball way over the fence. Barry Bonds took steroids and he was just jacking home runs. Well, he was a great fucking swinger and he was a great player. He was a player that was walked an immense amount of times in his time in the league. He just had an eye for the right pitch, and the guy was an incredible hitter. Like, it wasn't the fucking steroids that put it over the fence. The dude is a legendary batter, and that's why he hit a lot of balls over the fence. But this statement that LeBron was going to be successful because of this hype behind him, I would argue a guy like Giannis being successful, although his road more difficult, that chip on his shoulder to motivate him. Like, he had more to lose than LeBron. And it's equally impressive to see him get to this point, multi-time MVP award winner, now an NBA champion. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. And I think next year the West is going to get stronger. We're going to get a healthy Lakers team back. Obviously, if Clay can come back and we get the Warriors the way they used to be, I don't know, Jesse. I mean, would you say right now, out of the East, are we saying that the Bucks are an odds-on favorite to get out, or do you think that the Hawks and Celtics are still going to be a team that stand in their way?
I believe Hawks and Celtics. Interesting. Not the Nets?
Well, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the Nets, to be honest with you. I'm waiting through the offseason. I really don't know if this team stays together the way it was. I don't know how you keep all these players on this team.
I think they can make it work. If anything, I can't remember if it was Woj or Schefter who tweeted out immediately after the Bucks won that if anything, FanDuel had the odds-on favorite to win the championship next year. It was the Brooklyn Nets, believe it or not. So they're gonna. I think for the next couple of years, the conference finals are going to be very interesting. Like, they're going to be NBA finals level games in conference finals, and even in the round before that. Like, we already saw that this year with the Nets and the Bucks. So in the West, man, like, just seeing, I would love to see like 3 years in a row of LeBron playing against the Warriors again and again and again. Like, I would love to see those series. Yeah, the next couple of years, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, we have to anticipate Giannis and the Bucks going to at least one more over the next few years, as long as they still have their core. Drew Holiday had an incredible series. It was very like, Holiday can be very hot and cold. He was cold in Game 6, but when he really, when he showed out, he couldn't miss anything. And also Brook Lopez, you always have him if you need a clutch three or just a very under the radar putback where nobody's paying attention to him. Like, he's that team had so many weapons, it's not even funny. So yeah, I anticipate the Bucks getting back there. I would love to see like a Giannis LeBron series. That would be incredible. That would be awesome for 2022.
I know people are sick of seeing LeBron. He's going to enter age 37 next season. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but I think we're seeing when you get a player like Giannis who plays like this, we talked about this on another episode, and I've seen this in other sports. I feel like this is that step forward that you take as a superstar where you don't really go back to who you were prior to the series. I think we're going to see a better Giannis, or a consistent version of what we've seen right now. No, he's not going to have 40-point, 50-point games every night, but I think this confidence has been like embedded in him at this point. And I think we're going to see like a true, no doubt superstar game after game after game next year. And the Bucks are going to be a fucking problem. And my thing about the Nets, man, I don't know. I'm just telling you, I think they can keep it together, but you hear Kyrie talk about, he sounds like he's so like, I don't know if I really want to play basketball, like the motivation side of things. He thinks that the earth is flat. We saw this with Miami, James Harden and Durant, them working together. We watched Miami back in the day, like they lost that first championship game trying to put it all together. Then they ended up winning back-to-back. I don't know. All I'm saying is, I think that the Bucks are going to be tough to beat if they keep this team together. And I think you're going to get some veterans that are willing to, play on the back half of this roster to get an opportunity to play for a championship level squad. Okay, but people hate on LeBron. I saw people hating on Giannis. I forgot what the tweet was. I think there was another player in the league that just like some off the cuff clowning comment on Giannis saying that like, he only won it because he's like a freak of nature or some stupid thing. Like, it's so dumb. Anyways, the point is, the GOAT, the real GOAT in most people's eyes, Michael Jordan, recently had a Fleer PSA 10 sell for an ungodly amount of money, Jesse. Is this true?
The PWCC Premier Auction. So these are cards as of right now. They're going to lower the threshold price of what they're looking for the cards to be valued to be eligible to be in this type of auction. PWCC Premier Auction features cards that have an estimated value of $50,000 or more. So in this past auction, I believe it ended the weekend of, let me see, it ended on the weekend of July 17th and July 18th. So this past weekend, it it featured a PSA 10 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie, and it sold for $840,000. And yes, the average layperson in the hobby who might not be super familiar with the market or PWCC might be thinking, "Oh my God, the PSA 10 just tripled overnight," because in the same week, another auction house sold Jordan Fleer PSA 10 for $380,000, something like that, or somewhere between 340 and 380. I can't remember. So we're talking about essentially the card close to tripling in the course of a week. So before I kind of go into like a little bit of a deeper dive for why this sale uh, went for over 800K, and maybe why we shouldn't think that the Jordan market's going to explode because of this, the rest of the card market's going to triple overnight.
That's news to Darren Ravel's
I'm
ears.
sorry,
No,
Nate.
it's all right.
So what was interesting about this Jordan Fleer PSA 10 was that it was rated by PWCC as a PWCCS Jordan Fleer PSA 10. PWCC has a rating system of comparing PSA 10s to one another. So believe it or not, everybody, not every PSA 10 is equal, especially for very exclusive cards of GOATs and the most sought after cards of GOATs. So I took a look at the PWCC website in terms of their evaluation system when evaluating cards of the same grade, but obviously different copies. On their website, it says not all cards within the same grade are created equal. Cards in the top 30% of the eye appeal scale statistically garner in the eye appeal scale statistically garner superior market prices, 200% plus of market average for cards at the top of the range. PWCC has the data to prove it. So in their evaluation system, when they're looking at different cards within the same grade, they have the PWCC A, which stands for above average grade. So that card is like, let's say, all right, we're talking about the 86 Fleer PSA 10. PWCC A recognizes the card as being in the top 30% condition-wise of all Jordan Fleer PSA 10s. PWCCE goes for that card would put it in the top 15% of all Jordan Fleer PSA 10s, whereas the PWCCS would place the card in the top 5% of all Jordan Fleer PSA 10s. What's even crazier is one of the spokespeople from PWCC, I can't remember who, came out and said out of their 20 plus year history of selling this card at auction through their website or on eBay, this was the nicest version of that card that they've ever seen.
Wow. So this is very clearly like one of the nicest cards that they've graded.
Absolutely. What Nate, you and I were talking about this a little bit ago, off camera, and the contrast between the population counts of PSA 10 Jordan Fleers and BGS 10 Jordan Fleers is insane. Like for PSA 10, it's still it's a relatively low pop. There's far more people that want the card than how many are graded PSA 10. So the population count of the PSA 10 is over 300, whereas the BGS 10 population count is only 6, which is just out of this world. Yeah, there's no black labels. BGS 10s, you're not gonna see those cards up for auction just because they're in very strong hands. People don't want to let those go. That honest to God right now could be $1 million card, no problem. If this PSA 10 sold for 840K, it's a little, it's kind of speculation just because the condition of this particular Jordan Fleer PSA 10 that sold was so nice because in 86 Fleer, that whole set is known to have centering issues. So there are 10s that are graded that aren't they still have centering issues. Whereas this card, if it was put in a BGS holder, same condition as is, it's got a real shot at getting a BGS 10, just short of a black label.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to see the prices of these cards and now know that PWCC has this like superior top level of grading. It makes sense how it works. I didn't even know that this existed, Jesse, much like many of the listeners on this show. I had no idea. Now, for the people that are listening, when you talk about these BGS 10 slabs that are out there and that people are holding on to them, what makes those more expensive?
BGS 10 has always been held to a superior status even to the PSA 10. Even today, it's still there have been instances of BGS 10s selling for less than a PSA 10 of a certain card. Probably, definitely not this card, but it is far, far more difficult to get a BGS 10 of any card than it is to get a PSA 10. Just because a PSA 10 is considered a gem mint. The copy of that card is considered a gem mint copy. BGS 9.5 is also evaluated as a gem mint copy, whereas BGS 10 is pristine, to the point where out of all the subgrades that you talk about on BGS cards, corners, centering, surface, edges, there's only, in a BGS 10 slab, there's only one subgrade that graded out as a 9.5 and everything else graded as a 10. So it is very hard to submit a card to BGS and any card and get a BGS 10. So BGS 10s for probably the rest of the time that Beckett and PSA are around, they're going to carry a premium to PSA 10s.
That's crazy. And we've talked about that on this show, how BGS is this notoriously difficult grader. And it's why we always end up shocked when we see BGS 9.5s like just going for pennies on the dollar on eBay. It's always shocking because we know that they're a stringent grader. And we've talked about it before. I mean, do you believe that a multitude of BGS 9.5s, if broken out of the case and submitted to PSA, could come across as 10s?
Yes, but they would need, so BGS is very strict on centering. So it's very tough to get a BGS 9.5 with 10 centering. And then all the other subgrades are 9.5. Whereas PSA 10, PSA gives a little bit more of a leeway or room for improvement, whatever, for centering, and they can still give that card a PSA 10. But PSA might be actually a little bit more strict on corners than BGS is. So that's the corners have to be really well in order for PSA, for a card submitted to PSA to grade a 10. Whereas, yeah, BGS is they're pretty strict on centering. But in terms of the premium between the two, it's gonna stay for the time being. I'm not sure if it'll ever get back to where the BGS 9.5 is worth more than PSA 10, unless if PSA just completely goes down the shitter. And Nat Turner is a fraud. He's been posting somebody else's collection this whole time. He's not worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Something catastrophic, like absolutely unforeseen, has to happen to PSA in order for the power to go back to BGS. But it's, with the multiplier between the BGS 9.5s and the PSA 10s, it's absolutely insane. Just because in the very same auction, I believe it was the same auction in the PWCC Premier auction that ended on the same weekend that the PSA 10 Fleer did, the BGS 9.5 version of the same card, so 9.5 centering, corners and edges, and I believe 10 surface. So it was what's called a True Gem Plus with 3 9.5s and a 10 subgrade. That card sold for $72,000, less than 10% of the PSA of the $840,000 PSA 10. So I tweeted this out, and before even like realizing that it was a PWCC S whatever graded PSA 10 Fleer Jordan, I said, what the hell is this? What the like? I was more. I mean, I eventually I was shocked by the PSA 10 sale in a good way, but the BGS 9.5 just I don't get that. Even if the true valuation of the PSA 10 is around 300 to 350, 380K, there's no way a BGS 9.5 True Gem Plus should be going for a quarter of that price.
What the hell's going on? I mean, here's the thing. It's human grading, right? I mean, in the end, for now, between these two companies, this current state, this is human grading. The difference between one human grade and another human grade equated to a 90% difference in price. You know how fucking crazy that is to say? Because two different people decided to grade marginally different. One card goes for 10 times the price.
I love that you brought this point up because we are going to continue to see this is probably going to be more popular. So this type of sale, I'm not saying so. All right, if you're going to take anything away from this segment of the show, don't prepare for Jordan Fleer PSA 10s to skyrocket. They might. I'm not going to say they won't, but don't look out for $500,000 plus sales. But there will always be room for another skilled professional in the hobby to grade the grader. That will always remain in the hobby until all grading from every single grading company that's out there, until all grading is computerized and all grading is AI.
Yeah, that's the concern. It's what excites me about it going to this AI form of grading. But I don't know if there's pure hobbyists out there that don't want it to go that way. The same way that people don't want, a robot and photo eyes to call a baseball game. They want that human error. They want that variance, right? They don't want that to be infused in it. So I get why there's a lot of hobbyists that wouldn't want that they don't want it to go to that scale, because then it gets weird. You have a AI PSA Jordan 10, and then you have the Jordan 10 that wasn't scaled by a computer and verified. It's like, do they then necessarily, are they going to add like a new letter to the grading so that hey, this was AI graded, this one wasn't? And then someday there's, a discrimination against one versus the other. Like it could very well go down that road. So I don't know, but to your point, the day that we go fully AI is probably the day that many of us can stop this debate about one human grader versus another. But I'll just keep stirring the pot and I'll say, well, the calibration of their grading machine isn't as high quality as the calibration of this other grading machine, right? Their laser isn't measuring to the perfect micron or whatever the fuck it is. So that's what I'm worried about, Jesse.
You just took this one. I haven't heard on any other podcast, any other hobby personality mention that point. But that very well could be.
We're going down that road. Right. I want to go machine by machine. I'm going to verify them for myself with a magnifying glass, which is what you're going to need to use to figure out Cam Akers' current value.
We're not laughing at the injury.
No,
we're not. No, that was just the perfect segue.
No, that segue is just good. So Cam Akers, Achilles tendon tear, out for the season, and probably more than that, Jesse. He was a sleeper odds-on favorite for people to finish the RB1 overall in this Rams offense. And I think that there was a great chance that we were going to see a pretty incredible season out of Cam Akers. That's not going to happen, at least this season. And there's a lot of questions around what he could look like going forward. So from a card perspective, Jesse, do we look at this like a buy low opportunity if you're a prospective Cam Akers buyer? If you believe this 22-year-old, very talented running back who just sustained one of the worst injuries you can possibly sustain as a professional athlete, if you believe that the other side of the fence here, when he finally gets past all this bullshit, is a healthy running back, are you buying low on this opportunity?
Not necessarily, just because given the extent of the injury and its severity, almost You can argue that maybe age is on his side, but NFL running backs who have suffered this injury don't have a great record of coming back and continuing to show success in the league. In terms of the price of his cards, yes, we're gonna see crazy dips right now, but they are not done yet. Just because Cam Akers cards are down 50+% across the board, this is not the bottom. We're probably going to see the bottom at some point, midway through the year to the end of the season, when people really don't are not mentioning his name whatsoever. Um, it, Interestingly enough, when something bad happens to a player, you see a lot of panic sellers, and there's actually people who at that time think it's a good opportunity to buy, but they don't realize that when they're buying, there's a decent chance that it might fall 50% after that. So just be patient. If you are a Cam Akers collector, if you are looking to, I'm not I don't think I'd be investing money into Cam Akers right now, even with the injury. Um, there is yeah, there's just too much risk there. You don't want to, like, in stock terms or in finance terms, you don't want to catch a falling knife where the prices just keep dipping and dipping, and people just want to get, they want to get 25 cents on the dollar. They just want to get their money out and on to the next thing. So I am not looking right now as a buy opportunity. He very well could come back. Reports could be promising in next off season. He's already working out by, I don't know, whenever it's tangible for him to work out. And maybe at that point, people are going to start seeing his name in the news. Maybe, there could be a little bit of speculation there. His prices might rise a little bit. Maybe that could be a little bit of a sell window. If you don't believe that he can fully come back from an injury like this. But I would wait a little bit before, if you're really looking to buy into Cam Akers, I would continue to wait. I would not buy right now.
I mean, the card advice and the dynasty advice are very much hand in hand. We've got 50 days from essentially the point that we're recording this, 45 from the time you're hearing it, let's say, plus the length of the season. Literally 200 days from now, or 150 days from now, you can go looking for Cam Akers cards when he's at absolute rock bottom. No news is broken out. This is a substantial injury. I mean, most every player that ever sustained this injury never had a career after this, even down to the young guy, Dion Sanders, who was 21 years old when he had it, and he was basically out of the league shortly after. I mean, we never saw the same player that we expected to see. Matt Kelly and I fought for 2 full episodes of Sonic Truth with McNichols versus Foreman, just to see them end up on the same team at one point and then watch Foreman essentially wash out with one of the worst injuries. It killed Arian Foster towards the end of his career. Beanie Wells, he disappeared from it. Of course, Marlon Mack most recently. We don't know what happened with him, but it gives you pause. But Marlon Mack is kind of that sort of that shining light of hope right now, that ray of hope, because he's 24. He's essentially coming back from it. We don't know what player we're going to see. We saw a good player prior to the injury. So he's kind of that test factor for us. If he starts playing well this year, that at least gives us hope, because every other player has been erased from the league because of it, dependent of age, whatever it is. A lot of these guys were 24, 25 or older. Again, he's 22. He'll be 23 next season. We probably don't see him until a couple weeks into the season. And by then, who knows what the Rams do at running back, because I've heard a ton of rumors. Jesse, I've got my ear to the ground. I've got cups to doors. I'm listening all the time. Tons of rumors about guys like Sony Michel. The Patriots have depth at the running back position there. Sony Michel, potentially a trade candidate because they're not picking up his 5th-year option. He's likely not going to get re-signed with the Patriots. He could be a trade candidate to the Rams. And interestingly enough, if he played well, and let's say the Rams decided to extend him for some reason, just because he played well in the offense, waiting for Akers to come back, not knowing, there could be an odd situation there. And that's on top of the fact that we don't even know if Akers comes back the same player that he left. I mean, there's just so many concerns. So buying his cards for me, if I want to invest, I'm going to wait a long time. I'm not buying today.
Agreed. And don't buy, while we're on this topic, do not buy Darrell Henderson cards right now. For the love of God, please don't. Because in one day, I was looking through Darrell Henderson 2019 Prism sales on eBay. And I stopped scrolling after 15 minutes just because I couldn't get to the bottom of July 20th.
Come on.
Okay?
Come on.
I saw his Prism base PSA 10 first sale of the day on July 20th, the day that Cam Akers tore his Achilles. I saw that card go from $20 to almost $100. Do not buy a card that 5Xs in a day. I don't care what card it is.
It's FOMO though, right? It's FOMO. And now listen, Jesse, I found one myself. Now, I cannot substantiate whether this card actually sold for this amount or it did not. We've done our research. So before you guys come running up to us like the lynch mob that you can be and tell us that we got something wrong, you're off by a penny. Listen, before you come after us, I get a lot of DMs. I get tweeted at for mistakes. I don't want that smoke. We've looked. We can't find it. I don't know if you will. Maybe this hasn't filtered through the information that's on the website that we're looking for it from. But a 1/1 BGS 9.5 Darrell Henderson auto went for $1,500 as a best offer. Now, Jesse, you've speculated maybe the guy took $150. It's possible, but for the sake of this bit, we're gonna say it was $1,500 fucking dollars.
You came out and said that seller had one foot in his own grave.
Well, he knew, right? Can you imagine? You bought these Henderson rookies because he had some premium draft capital, and you thought that the Rams were invested, and this was the next guy after Gurley, and all this was going to work in his favor, and then, oh no, Cam Akers gets drafted, and all of a sudden you're stuck holding these cards of this backup running back that every time fantasy analysts have a conversation about the top backup running backs in the league, they don't say his name. Nobody says his name. I don't even want to say his name right now. And everybody's like, oh, now he's in my top 15. He's only moving up to the top 15 in rankings because of volume, and that's it.
How long do you think, to put this back into the card perspective, how long do you think that seller has had those pictures of that card on his phone for, listing or waiting for this very opportunity?
Since draft day of 2020,
since the card was graded. Yeah, since he submitted the card himself like a big boy to BGS. He's been sitting on this since.
Yeah. He thought he had one. He thought that he had one. He sent it to BGS, went with a great grader. He thought, hey, this is the card. This is the guy. 10 years from now, when I'm thinking about early retirement because this card is now worth $487,000, I'll be glad that I graded with BGS. This guy is the future of the Rams, okay? They're going to fucking hang his jersey in the rafters. And then guess what? This guy took $1,500. He's lucky if that's what he actually sold for, out of pure pity to either Darrell Henderson himself, a member of his family, or the least educated buyer that ever stepped foot on eBay. And we've talked about egg cards on this show.
Nice throwback.
Yeah, thank you. So it's a buy low opportunity, as Jesse says, and I'm fanning the flames. I totally agree. I'm not chasing Cam Akers cards right now. We're not saying we don't believe he could put it together in the future. I'm not a doctor. If I was a doctor, I probably wouldn't have time to do this show. I'd be doing surgeries and I don't know, other things. What do doctors do, right? Okay, that's a surgeon. Doesn't matter. So, Jesse, buy low opportunity. Probably not. Avoid that. Don't buy Darrell Henderson. Congratulations if you've been stashing this guy in fantasy for the last 2 years in hopes that something was going to happen, because now he's marginally relevant. Best Ball Mania 2 at Underdog. It's relevant. That's going on right now. Best Ball Mania 2 is underway. After the massive success of Best Ball Mania 1 last year, it is back again this year. $25 bonus cash for new players who deposit using the code Underworld. Guys, go get in it. Go jump into an underdog tournament. It's taken the entire world by storm. They started with nothing, and they've conquered the entire universe, Jesse. Absolutely bending my mind every time I see this account grow and grow and grow, and more people posting screenshots of their drafts. They've just taken it by storm. What's also taken people by storm, Jesse, because this podcast continues to grow. I can't say the number because I've got a gag order that I signed. I'm not allowed to actually say the statistics that this show is doing, but this show is doing great. People really enjoy this. They come to listen to you. I'm just here just shooting shit from the side, attempting to, I stand in the corner and wait for the ball, and I take a shot when I can. But
these are Curry level threes, though. It's fine.
Yeah,
just shooting from the hip, and it's in every time.
Yeah, nobody's quicker. So we introduced a new segment last week. It's the Would You Rather segment. Jesse is the creator of this. If you guys would like to submit a question to Would You Rather, or if you would like to get your question read live on the show, or just more content in general, patreon.com/I'm outraged. Go check it out. We also have a Discord chat with a lot of good people in there. They're incredibly active. I mean, day and night, these guys are in there. So let's jump into one right now. Let's start off with a Would You Rather, Jesse. And this one comes from John Cole.
John Cole asked, would you rather grab a super short print card of a player you PC before you can accurately do research, or would you rather risk losing the card to save a few bucks on price? For sure. All right. So the key part of the question, John, that you asked is save a few bucks on price. What's a few bucks? Is a few bucks 10%? Is a few bucks even 20%? If it's a super short print card of somebody who I actively look to collect, I don't care. I am going to buy that card no matter what, because in the end, what's 10% to me? That's something that I've come to a realization point at this year, is that if it's something that I'm just really looking for, it's something that just appeals to me. It's a type of card that kind of, I have a couple of like mental checkpoints that I want a card to accomplish before I actually purchase it. If it accomplishes most of them, if not all of them, I'll look to pay for it, just because there have been, especially if I just really want the card, and I like, if I go to bed thinking about that card, that's how I know it's probably something that I'm gonna end up buying, or that I feel that I need in my collection. There have been OGs in this hobby that have been in it for 20 plus years. We saw somebody buy a Babe Ruth card in the mid 90s for less than 20K. So there are people that have been in this for a long time, and they will happily admit to people who are looking to speak to them that at some point they have overpaid for a card themselves, of a very, very nice quality card, a card that a lot of collectors want, but nobody would be willing to pay that price at that moment in time. And now they have the sickest collections you'll find in the world, on Instagram, on the web, wherever. So when I see that the seller and I have a difference in price of like 10%, and it's obviously, like you said, it's a super short print card, I'm gonna pay that extra 10% if that's what needs to happen.
And we did a podcast, our first guest appearance, with a guy that you know off Instagram, Rob, and this was really something that he talked about, just these rare cards, and also, not being afraid to spend, like you're saying, a few extra dollars, whatever it takes to secure, especially if it's a PC, right? If it's not a flip, but especially a PC, a player that you want to hold on to long term, then even if it's, like Jesse said, 15% over what you're looking to spend, if you expect that card to climb, then it's kind of small change today, knowing that tomorrow it's going to have a lot of upside. So totally right. I completely agree with what you're saying. Jesse, I just noticed this. Before I get to the rest of these questions, I want to mention, Jesse, you're going to the National Card Convention. Is that right?
I am, yes. And that I'm going to be in the National. All right, so the National is Wednesday, July 20. It's like a week from yesterday, I think it starts. So it's Wednesday, July 28th, and it's going on through August 1st at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. I will be road tripping there with my loving girlfriend, who I somehow tricked to come with me to a card show in Chicago. So yeah, shout out to her if she's listening. Probably not, but who knows? But yes, I'm going with her to the show. I will not be a dealer there, so I can't give out like a table number or something, or you can't find me across from Panini or Topps or if Vegas Dave somehow is set up there, you're not going to be able to find me there. But I will be walking around. If you want, hit me up on Instagram, just to say hi. If you see me walking around and I'm just drooling at gold Julio Jones refractors, just tap me on the shoulder and just be like, all right, dude, like stop drooling and just say hi to me. So yeah, I'll be there. Don't be shy, and say hi if you see me.
He won't be hard to miss. Jesse will be wearing a coat made of all Dalmatians like Cruella de Vil, a long white one just dragging on the floor. Shouldn't be hard to miss. Well, that's cool. I know that a couple of the patrons that I've talked to are going to that convention as well. I will not be making it there, but Jesse is going to be holding it down for the Clear the Cash podcast there, so hit him up. It sounds like it's going to be huge. Sounds like a ton of people in the industry are going to be there, so be a good chance for you to network and meet some of these patrons of people on Twitter. Again, growing audience. Guys, go find Jesse, absorb all of his time. Josh McAtee, great question here. He consistently posts the best questions. I shouldn't say the best because it sounds like I'm favoring, but he asks some really good questions. His questions are so good, we can't even use them all. We have to decide which one do we use. So this week he asked us about defensive backs and which one we would collect as an investment. And you and I read this question and instantaneously had the same answer. But his question was Charles Woodson or Dion Sanders. So Jesse, between those two, which one are you taking as a long-term investment?
Dion Sanders, no question about it. Although I think Charles Woodson is still underappreciated card-wise, just because of the type of player that he was for as long as he played. His cards are still surprisingly affordable. So I'm not saying he doesn't have room to grow. He absolutely does. But in terms of being somebody who card collectors want to, who they want to spend their money on and collect, you shouldn't look that much further than somebody like a Dion Sanders. Now, I know defensive players aren't, the sexiest players in football to collect cards of, but Dion had everything that you'd be looking for in someone to collect. He had the personality, he obviously had the athleticism, and his level of success in the NFL. He was a dual player for a while, right? Playing both wide receiver, having the ability to play both wide receiver and DB. And just the personality, he's so collectible. It's not even funny. I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago. I can't pull it up now, but somebody bought I believe it was a 1998 or 1999 Essential Credentials, Dion Sanders. I think it was, I can't remember what grade it was. It doesn't matter. It's a beautiful card. It was numbered out of 50 or so. Very low population. Somebody scooped that card up for $750 on my slabs, and I couldn't believe it, because those cards in that same grade for other stars at that time go for $2,500 plus, and I thought $750 for that card was a steal. So you can certainly get into Dion Sanders at a fraction of the price of even skill position players from that time period, just because he was a defensive player. But if anything, his personality might have been one of the most exciting out of any of the NFL stars in the 90s.
He had a funny situation that recently came up. I don't know if you heard about this. So he's the head coach of Jackson State, the Tigers. And recently, during an interview with a reporter, they referred to him as Dion on two different occasions, and he got really upset that they weren't referring to him as coach. I think it was a respect thing. He brought up Nick Saban and said, would you guys call Nick Saban Nick? No, you call him coach. I want to be called coach. So he was energetic, but so he's coaching college football. But the thing is, I wanted to mention, like, the baseball career stuff is impressive as well. Like, the multi-sport athlete, I mean, such an icon, ton of television time. I'm sure we're going to see him on TV again at some point, unless his goal is to work his way up the ranks to higher levels of, professional football. I mean, one of the greatest corners of all time. I don't know how he doesn't get a shot if he wants it. But nonetheless, good question. I agree. Dion Sanders just seems the most relevant long-term. Josh McAtee with another one. Which first-year refractor product do you prefer? And he says 1996 Topps Chrome or 2012 Prism.
Josh McAtee's a real one, just because he does not like his. All right, the Deion Sanders question, that was kind of, I don't know. To me, that was a really, I mean, it was thought provoking. Even though I heavily lean Sanders, but his questions, man, they really make me think. For something like 96 Topps Chrome or 2012 Prism, I'm assuming we're talking about we're probably talking, multi-sports. So we're talking basketball, we're talking football. I would be going 2012 Prism. All right, so kind of breaking down the sets themselves. Both years in basketball had outrageous rookie classes. So 96 Topps Chrome, you have Kobe, you have Steve Nash, you have Allen Iverson. It's just, you have an insane amount of talent, like superstar talent, who are rookies at the time. And even 96 Topps Chrome base and refractor PSA 10 Michael Jordans, they go for a ton of money, just because that's obviously Jordan's first year Topps Chrome. People are going to take that card seriously. Whereas 2012 in basketball, you also have what would amount to be probably just as good of a class, or just as stacked of a class talent wise. We talk about them probably every couple of episodes. You have Anthony Davis, you have Kawhi, Damian Lillard, Klay Thompson. Just because in 2011, no basketball, there was nobody had an NBA license for producing basketball cards. So the 2011 rookies were combined with the 2012 rookies for that 2012 Prism set. So you just have that 2012 Prism set is just so stacked. The reason why I'm going with 2012 is just because I don't know if there is definitely a scientific reason to this. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe we have to call on some organic chemists. Maybe we need an organic chemist as a guest on the show. I don't know.
I don't know why.
The reason being is because in 1996 Topps Chrome, both for base and I believe refractors as well, they have a tendency over time, even if the cards are graded, they have a tendency to hulk. And by hulk, I mean they turn green. I don't want people to look at this as like a poor man's PMG green or anything, just because it's not as rare and it's not supposed to be green. So that's a little bit of a concern. Green is my favorite. Like green and gold are probably my favorite colors. But I don't necessarily want a card that's not supposed to be green to be green. Again, there is some sort of a chemical answer to this, and I think people have tested humidity as a factor, and it's not humidity. Humidity does not turn these cards green, and I believe this might be the only set that we're seeing this from. We're not seeing it from 97, 98, whatever. Moving forward, we're only seeing it from 96. I don't know what the hell happened in 1996 in Topps, but they're turning green slowly with time. So that scares me a little bit. But if you have a non-green refractor copy, graded or not, compare that to 2012 Prism. Aesthetically, honestly, they both look incredible. I'd probably still prefer Prism by a hair, but they're both just so damn nice. But that whole hulking out effect for 96 Topps Chrome would lead me to want to go after 2012 Prism instead.
I love it. A lot of depth. See, Jesse, we go to the outer reaches of what's going on inside there, and you just pull these nuggets of information that I'm just not finding anywhere else out. Let's see if we can help this guy out. I heart Che, as we've all learned. Okay, we learned that episodes and episodes ago. His question, a little longer than the rest, a little longer. As I've gotten more into the hobby, I've realized it's a lot of resources out there that can help me progress in the hobby. My goal is to get a super dope Lamar Jackson one of these days. Not too sure which one yet, but I figure in time I will see one. But until then, I continue to grind. What kind of card-related apps do you guys use? Currently, I use the PSA Cert, Card Ladder, and Sports Investor apps on my phone. Do you suggest any others? How do you guys stay sharp outside of it being muscle memory after a while?
Data in this industry is power for both buyers and sellers. I want as much of it as possible. Truth be told, I have memberships to both Card Ladder and Sports Card Investor because while both teams they're doing exceptional work, and I am huge fans of both. Occasionally there will be a missed data point or so between, one of them will have a missed data point of a card that I'm looking at. Whereas usually the other one will pick it up on their website. By data points, I mean eBay sale history. So they'll miss, one of them will miss an eBay sale. But usually the other one will still have it. So I prefer to have both. Obviously, guys, I think there's been a couple of people who weren't aware, of like any apps being out there for PSA. I don't think BGS has one, but PSA is pretty forward thinking. And download the PSA app. You don't need a membership for it. It's a free app. They actually have, I've mentioned this on a couple of shows before, they have an auction price tool where you can literally look up a card just like you're looking it up on eBay, and they'll tell you the eBay auction history of that card for as long as the database is loaded in PSA. So PSA is great. I personally have Card Ladder and Sports Card Investor, both memberships to both. Honestly, it sounds like you're doing pretty well. If you have all three, kudos to you. That's pretty, data is on your side, and as long as you have access to it. If there is a card that is not loaded on either platform, which it's impossible to track millions and millions of cards. You need to have a group of supercomputers in order to have that, I'm sure, or to store that data. Honestly, saved searches are the next best app-free tool you can have for to use in your favor just via eBay. So you can get flagged if any card that comes up that you have a safe search for pops up. You can look at past sales data, at least for the last 90 days. But in terms of that, definitely requires more work. But if it's something that you're really looking for, dude, you're right. You got to grind it out until you're able to find the good deal or the good card that you're looking for.
There it is. There you have it. I mean, it doesn't get any more nuanced than that from Jesse Bach himself. Thank you guys for the questions. Jesse and I are cooking up something pretty interesting for one of the next episodes, but I want to let you guys know right now there will not be an episode following this one, which is in the next week. I'm going on vacation. Jesse has obviously got stuff going on as well. So after you guys hear this episode, there will be a 1-week break before our next episode. But when we come back from vacation, well-rested, more nuanced than previously before, we're going to bring fire. So be ready for that. So we will catch you guys next time on Clear the Cache.